Yes, guys, welcome back to another video. Welcome back to another podcast. As you can see with me, we've got two very, very special guests. And yes, guys, make sure before we introduce them, we'll smash the like button. We're going to go through Arsenal's absolutely thrashing performance against Nottingham Forest. Five-star performance, 5-0 to Arsenal. We're going to go through the upcoming game against Chelsea at Stamford Bridge as well. But before we do that, we've got a very, very two special guests as always. Starting off with Kenny Ken. Big up yourself, Kenny, mate. Really do appreciate you coming on. How are you doing, mate?
I'm all good. I've done my podcast with Lee Gunners, so that was always eventful, and it's nice. Thank you very much for having me on. And this season's been a bit unique because we've played some really good football. We're playing really well, and the thing that we haven't been doing for a long time, really, even when before, even for a good few years, we're getting a lot of bodies in the box. So because we get a lot of bodies in the box, that's enabling us to win football matches because, there's times when we haven't been that great, but because we keep on attacking and having options, that's why we're winning games. Because I thought, our football's not as negative as I thought it has been. Sometimes under Mikel's been a bit positive this season.
Yeah, man. And obviously Seb as well. Welcome back as always. You're like my co-host of this podcast. So yeah, how you doing, man?
Yeah, good. Thank you. Yeah, very happy about yesterday. I think that was a perfect response after, to be honest with you, a difficult week because obviously we lost to PSV and we got the draw against Southampton, which did feel a bit like a defeat. But we've bounced back in style and we're top of the league, so can't complain. I just hope Bukayo Saka's all right, but apart from that, all good.
Yeah, so we're going to discuss the first topic then. Arsenal getting a 5-0 win against Nottingham Forest. And I want to give my thoughts quickly about the game and then we're going to move on to you guys, of course. So starting off, of course, this was a big performance that, we've been looking for the past few weeks because I'll be honest, guys, right? That PSV game was absolutely horrendous. That Southampton game, the first half was really good. Second half, don't know what happened to us, very, very poor. That Leeds game as well, we did get away with a few things, like gave away a penalty as well. And we ended up winning that 1-0. And that type of performance has been happening for these past weeks. So it's very nice for Arsenal to play, of course, we're at the Emirates against Nottingham Forest. I know they're bottom of the league, but we absolutely destroyed them. And obviously that first half, we got the early goal from Martinelli. And, after that, we sort of it wasn't that great. But then second half, Arteta said something at half time because came out second half. Reiss Nelson, man. I know Saka's injured now, but big up Reiss Nelson. Took his opportunity, 2 goals. And then, of course, Partey, what a goal that was for Partey as well. And then, of course, Odegaard wrapping it up 5-0. So, I thought it was a very, very convincing performance. Very happy. Kenny, mate, what was your thoughts on the game?
You know what? There was loads of sort of subplots to the game because initially when you get there, you feel downcast because you think Kieran Tierney's not starting. It's a game that he could have started and he's not playing, so you feel a bit downcast. But overall, you look at the performance and there was a bit of trepidation because as you said before, we've had a bit of a form dip, and we've been since the Liverpool game really, so where we kind of laboured to a 1-0 wins against Glint and Leeds, and then obviously Southampton. It was another limp to a draw, and then we got absolutely hammered on Wednesday. But people say it's only Forest, but that first half we scored early, but up after we scored, Nottingham Forest started pressing us. They started getting in amongst us, but they didn't have the quality to sort of open that door. So we really needed a kind of a push, setting off, and we duly got that. But yeah, Saka, massive injury loss, but hopefully I've heard nothing to say that he's going to be out for the Chelsea game. So I'm happy with that because he in essence he's our go-to player. But the second half, let's be honest, it's easy to criticise. Yeah, it's only Forest, but you still have to beat them. You still have to play well. Yeah. You still have to, score great goals, and that's what we did. Yeah, Forest gave us a lot of space, but can't knock it. Reiss Nelson changed the game, and that's why, I can understand him getting high ratings. Partey scored a magnificent goal. He's probably one of the best players on the pitch. Odegaard, who was off form, And it's facts because he hasn't lasted the full 90 minutes. He's always getting subbed, maybe because of performance-wise or maybe tactical. So he had a bit of space. And the only downside is that two downsides. Kieran Tierney wasn't the first substitute, so you kind of he brings in my guy Cedric instead of Tierney, but he comes in eventually, and then Jesus did everything but score. But you've got to take it as a positive. I can understand people getting really excited, but on the other hand, I can understand fans thinking, well, it's only Forest, but a win's a win. You just don't know where this form's going to take us. It could be a situation where if we don't sign players, we could flounder. But, it's another points in the bag. And, we are well on the way to having a good season. I just prayed that, we have something to show for it, like a trophy, because sometimes you can play this well, like 07-08 season when we had that great team in the making, but we won nothing. And it just was a bit of a damp squib when we played probably better football and had better players than what we got now. So I don't want them to repeat that.
Yeah, facts, man. We're going before we on Seb, let's read some of you guys' comments. Keep smashing the like button. Big up Football Forever, Jose. Yes, big up. Onto the ball as well. Hope you're doing well. Delorgrian Football, big up yourself. RD12, Ryan as well. My man, Chelsea fan. They got battered 4-1 by Brighton. Poor. I feel bad for that, man. How you doing today? We're all good, man. Yeah, big up Ryan. Football Forever again. Smash the likes. Yeah, make sure you smash the like button up, guys. And yeah, Seb, my friend, your thoughts on Arsenal's, fantastic performance against Nottingham Forest?
Yeah, it was a very good victory. If obviously something like that was needed after the week we've just had, and also a little bit of a form going into this, because obviously, like we said, that it wasn't convincing against Leeds or Bordeaux Glint, or you could even say we kind of scraped it against Liverpool at times. But of course we got the win, and then the draw against Southampton, and then the PSV loss. So what we really needed is a bit of a performance to really get that confidence back and to really, really kickstart us again. And also because the pressure was on, because City had won, Tottenham had won. So the pressure was on because we knew we had to win to go back to the top, and they did that. And also what we said in the preview, in the other previous podcast, is that I wanted to see a performance and a convincing win. And we got that. We got 5, and very happy for Reece Nelson, who really took his opportunity when he came on, because he's been a player that's probably been struggling with confidence and not really been getting much of a look in, but he took this opportunity very, very well, and really happy for him. And maybe it could be the sign that he could be an option, and he still does have a future at the club, because his contract runs out at the end of the year, so he knows that this is his last chance. And he got up there and he just looked sharp, and he looked sharp on it, and that was really good to see. And yes, overall, I can't moan about the performance. And what we've always wanted to say is that when we're on top in the game, kill it off. That's what we didn't do against Leeds and just about got away with it. We didn't do against Southampton, and we got punished for that. So, but we actually killed this one off. And yes, okay, it's only Nottingham Forest, but you can only beat what's in front of you. And they were on a bit of a high because they won against Liverpool, and they got a draw against Brighton, and they drew to someone else recently. I can't remember who, but you have to go out there and do the job. And if you want to be taken seriously as title contenders, then you've got to be doing it to these teams that you're expected to win. Just completely kill the game off. They were there for the taking, and we did what we had to do. I can't ask for much more than that. And now we're back at the top.
Yeah, 100%. And I want to ask you guys this as well. Looking at the lineup, right? Once again, there was no Kieran Tierney in the starting 11, and we played Tomiyasu in his position once again. I know it was against Liverpool, right? But for me, Kieran Tierney is one of my favourite players at Arsenal. I think he's a very, very quality player, and he's very experienced as well. Like he's won many trophies with Celtic as well. And like, I don't get why we're playing a right back who is actually a centre back in Tierney's position, left back, and then Arteta brought on Cedric before Tierney. So yeah, Kenny, mate, what's your thoughts on Tomiyasu like playing left back over Tierney?
Well, the thing about it is, it's very puzzling, and it's becoming, worrying for Kieran Tierney as a person, because it's I wouldn't be happy with that because he's the best left back at the football club. Because tactically, if you want to get into Mikel's head, then you could say that the reason why he's bought Zinchenko is because he can go in the midfield and he can give us another body in midfield when we're in the attack. And that if he comes in, Granit Xhaka, who's playing further forward, playing his best football at Arsenal, let's be honest, gets further into his position where he can score goals or get down the ball and put crosses in and be part of the move. I get that. And I get that if you play Tomiyasu there, then Granit Xhaka could just hog the left-hand side and give us the overlap. You don't need Tomiyasu to do that. But the thing that annoys me, Kieran can do all of that. Kieran is more than capable of coming in the midfield, like he showed yesterday with his slide through with the crossfield pass. He's done it before in certain games, and he's a better defender than Zinchenko. Obviously not as good as Tomiyasu, but he gives us a lot down that left-hand side. So tactically, I don't understand why you're putting him on the bench for tactical reasons. And if it's for his injuries, then hang on here. If you can only play one game a week, surely your best left back, who I believe at the club, should be playing the league games, not playing them in just your own games. So it's a very confusing thing. And I think in terms of man management, Arteta's going to have his work cut out because a year ago, all of us, well, not all of us, but collectively, the majority of fans were penciling Kieran as our next captain. We never really, if we're honest, had Martin Odegaard in mind when it came to, choosing a long-term captain after Aubameyang left the club. It was Kieran Tierney was very much one of the candidates, or maybe give the job back to Xhaka. But at this time, Xhaka was divided opinion because of what happened, 3 years ago with Crystal Palace at home. So one of the very few suitable candidates was Kieran Tierney. So what's happened? We know he had an injury in the summer of his knees and everything, and we know he's come with injuries. But a player of that ability is, in essence, the third choice left back. And then the first change when Thomas said comes off, Cedric gets a game. All right, he hasn't played all season. It's not for us to bash him. But from that point of view, I would be really, really... I don't know how Kieran Tierney bit his tongue. I don't know what's going on with him. I don't know what the arrangements between them. But questions need to be asked as soon as that you see an incident like occurred. You can't just brush it under the carpet because we're winning football matches, because long term, it didn't work against Southampton, did it? When Tomiyasu got overrun by Elyounoussi, Mohamed Elyounoussi, in other games where we're going to need Tomiyasu to sort of give the overlap. He can't. It's not his game. You know what I mean? So again, something needs to be happening, because there's going to be a time when teams work us out. That's going to be a problem.
100%, bro. RD12 says Forest battered Tottenham as well, and they got away with it. Aston Villa was the other team that Seb was referring to. So Seb, obviously, your thoughts on this, right? The fact that look, if I was Tierney, right, in January, I'll probably want to leave if I have a left back playing in my if I have a right back playing in my position. What's your thoughts on Tierney?
Yeah, I agree. This doesn't really make sense. Against Liverpool, I understood it because of who he was up against with Salah. And to be fair to Tomiyasu, that game he did very well. But I didn't understand it again in all these other games against Leeds, Southampton, and Forest. I don't also know what's going on there, because I agree with Kenny. He is our best left back. He is, and when he's fit, he really should be starting. He offers something a lot different to what Tomiyasu does. And no disrespect to Tomiyasu, but that's not his natural position. His natural position is either right back or centre back. So what you should be doing is you should be playing players in their natural position. And Tierney brings a lot more going forward, like the way he crosses that ball. And in the last game against Southampton, when he actually came on, he actually made a difference, because when he was actually crossing that ball, we were actually getting more creativity and more balls into the box. And that's what he brings. Tomiyasu doesn't quite bring it. That's not really his game. He more stays back. But Yeah, we need. It doesn't really make sense, and Tierney cannot be happy about this. I don't think he'll want to leave in January, but if it continues on for the rest of the season, then he might have question marks about what's going on here. And yeah, but yeah, that doesn't really make sense. He should have started those last few games, and we did actually hear things that he pulled Tierney to the side before the Liverpool game and explained why he played Tomiyasu in that game. But what about these other matches? We haven't heard anything. So what is happening? Maybe he's saving him for these Europa League games, because these Europa League games have also been important because we need to top the group. But still, I know he's had his injury record, but in order to build your fitness up, you've got to be given fair match time as well. And maybe I think the real test of this will be after Thursday to see if he continues doing this or not, because Thursday the Europa League group stages end.
Yeah.
If it continues, then I think there'll be a lot more into this. But going to Zinchenko, I actually can't wait to see him back, because I feel in his last few games, not Forest yesterday, but in the Leeds game, PSV game, Southampton game, we've actually missed what he brings to the team, because I think he's more slotted to midfield, because he keeps us in control of possession. He adds more creativity, makes some midfield tick. He probably isn't as good defensively, but we do actually miss him when we have most of the possession. But if he's not there, then it really should be Kieran Tierney. But again, I'm not sure what's going on there. We'll have to wait and see what they say or what happens in the next few weeks.
Yeah, comment here says, was this the reason why Zinchenko left City too? Pretty sure, because it's Cancelo who took his position, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Artie 12 says Tomiyasu the other day was drifting into midfield a lot in that Forest game. What happens when Zinchenko comes back? Yeah, Seb just touched on that. So Seb, if Zinchenko comes back, you just play him over Tierney, is what you're saying?
Probably yes. It's a hard one, but to be fair, Zinchenko hasn't done a lot wrong to deserve to be dropped. Well, neither's Tierney really, but I probably would. Maybe because don't forget he's had a calf injury which has actually been since the North London derby. So he's actually had pretty much a whole month out. So maybe he needs to be someone that needs to be eased in. But I don't know. That's a difficult one, because they're both different type of players. But I think Tierney deserves more games to naturally build up his fitness up. We see Thomas Partey's doing. He's now playing more. He's now starting to get stronger and stronger. Because before he had his injury doubts, but
yeah,
now hopefully that's the end of it, and hopefully this will be the end of it for Tierney as well.
Artie 12 says we might see a little more Tierney when we come back after the World Cup, because Tomiyasu will be there, and Tierney obviously isn't. Scotland didn't make it. Yeah, I do agree with that as well. But yeah, before we move on, I want to obviously touch on another Arsenal player, right? And going to go with our centre back Gabriel, right? And I don't know if you guys saw the pass that he made right into Jesse Lingard, wasn't it? And almost cost us a goal, to be honest. But Gabriel, for me, has been making countless mistakes recently, like the one against Fulham as well when he got tackled by Mitrovic. I think there's a few others in there as well. But yeah, Kenny, mate, what is your thoughts on Gabriel? This season.
Well, the thing is, if you kind of like do a rewind and turn the clock back, one of the things we were very excited about having Gabriel at the football club was the fact that we were looking forward to, potentially playing alongside Saliba. But I agree with you. The thing with Gabriel is that he's getting into that sort of territory where he feels that his pace will get him out of trouble no matter what. And I think that's what we're seeing with a lot of mistakes. But the thing is that when he gives the ball away in certain positions, his managers like Pep and Mikel and the modern manager probably wouldn't count as a demerit mark, because they want players like that to play out the back, because they're obsessed with everyone being good on the ball and everyone sort of creating attacks from especially in Man City when Arteta was there, they create attacks from virtually the goalkeeper, pass it out and then open teams up like that. So they say that. But in terms of like his defending, he's the sort of person who can have in the 90 minutes, he can look world class, indifferent, and downright poor. And that's the thing. There's an inconsistency, not in just his performance, but within the 90 minutes. And yeah, you are right. There are high profile mistakes he made. Fulham, playing the ball out back. He was at fault for one of the goals against Liverpool. And, you know, he was involved in the disaster, which was Spurs' equaliser, although Shackles could have helped him out there as well. So, yeah, he is being very inconsistent. But yesterday, he was a bit of a light upset cow moment until he gave the ball away. But you're going to see a lot of that with Gabriel because, you know, once you're a defender, you get into that sort of trap of thinking your pace is going to get you out of trouble, or you've got a manager that just wants you to just play ball. Then you're going to get a situation because at the moment, and I say this respectfully, you probably won't agree with me. He's in the side because, you know, he's still highly rated, but managers like Pep and Mikel like that right-footed, left-footed combination, you know, in defence. So, you know, maybe if we get a left-sided centre half that is world-class, then maybe that could put Gabriel under pressure of his place and maybe eventually replace him because at the moment he's in the team because of the potential and, you know, because, you know, on his day he's still a good defender. But you're right, you know, Josh, his consistency this season and his carelessness hasn't cost us because we're winning. But I get where you're coming from. Further down the line, business end of the season, and he's going on, you know, like little adventures and Walter Mitty moments, Willie Young moments. Then yeah, that could be costly.
Yeah, Seb, do you agree with us about Gabriel?
Kind of, yeah, because again, he has actually been hit and miss this season. Obviously, he's had some great games still. I still think he's had some good performances, but yeah, he does have that odd lapse of concentration where he does make a silly mistake that has kind of or ultimately led to a goal, which he does need to just stamp out of his game. But yeah, he made another one, like you said, the other day when he played it straight to Forest player and they fortunately missed it. But again, he's that type of player that when he makes mistakes, he always keeps going and tries to make up for it, which I do also like about him. Like against Fulham, he made up for it by scoring, and against Tottenham, it didn't cost us, and other matches as well. But yeah, I do actually feel more towards, if he continues doing it towards the business end of the season, then people will start to get worried, and then maybe fans might start to have more doubts about him. But until then, I still wouldn't drop him just yet. But yeah, he does need to really stamp that out of his game. Otherwise, he will end up costing us one day. But I still think he's a great defender.
Thoughts on what happened to Pablo Mari? Yeah, it was terrible, wasn't it? And it was a really nice touch what we did when Martinelli lifted up his shirt. But yeah, it was very, very sad to see. I know he's on loan at Monza, isn't he? So yeah, of course, all the best to Pablo Mari, and I hope he has speedy recovery and all that stuff. But yeah, right. Anyway, move on now to the big game. I know we got Zurich first, but in the Premier League, away to Stamford Bridge. Chelsea versus Arsenal, massive game. And going into this game, of course, in terms of the record recently at Chelsea, we beat the 4-2 last season. Eddie Nketiah had an absolute insane game. We beat them 1-0 the previous season as well. When nobody expected that to happen because I think we got knocked out in the Europa League against Villarreal, so we were on some horrendous form. But we did get the win in the end, 1-0. And of course, in previous seasons at Stamford Bridge, I remember that game we got battered 6-0. You know, was that 2013, 2014?
Wenger's 1,000th game. Oh.
And I remember the ref sent off the wrong player, didn't he? He sent off Oxlade-Chamberlain when he was meant to be Gibbs or something like that.
It was Gibbs, other way round.
Other way round, yeah, other way round.
I see, yeah.
But yeah, obviously, you know, there've been times where Eden Hazard, when they battered us 3-1 and he turned the whole defence. Oh, it's mad. But going into this game, right, this season, of course, Chelsea under Graham Potter, they sacked Thomas Tuchel. We've got a familiar face, of course, Aubameyang is returning against his former club. It'll be interesting to see what happens with him. But son of Kenny, right? How confident are you that we're going to go to Stamford Bridge and get the 3 points, mate?
Well, a week ago I wasn't, because Chelsea were just doing enough to win games, but Chelsea got a blip yesterday, and I think when you look at our record against Chelsea, it's actually quite a bit of an amazing scenario that in the last few years we've become Chelsea's bogey side, where you're right, we couldn't buy a draw even at Chelsea, because they used to find a way to beat us because they just overpowered us, and that was a lot since Mourinho came to the club, and they've had a lot of the Indian side over us in terms of success. And arguably, if you go by their recent success under Roman Abramovich, they could say that they're London's biggest club. But in terms of like Chelsea under Graham Potter, it's pretty strange because he's making a lot of he's tinkering a lot with his team, and he seems to be keeping a lot of players happy. Like he he seems like he has to play Chilwell and Cucurella in that team, where Cucurella is probably a better wing back or left back than playing a back three, but he seems to be keeping them happy. He hasn't, in my opinion, got the best out of Sterling and Aubameyang, and what before they got absolutely thumped, there were games where they were just doing enough to win, and get a bit of a break and they take the game away from players. But in terms of like, are they sort of like Chelsea performances? I wouldn't say so. And Conte's out, Kovacic, they've got to play the game. So in terms of the midfield, we got one of the best DMs in world football in Partey. Yeah. And we're winning the midfield battle, so that's an area which we can attack. And also, they haven't got Koulibaly, one of who's bought for a lot of money. He's still trying to settle in. And the goalkeeping situation is that, it's only they don't know who's their best goalkeeper is at the moment. 1 minute it's Mendy, then he makes a few mistakes, and it's Kepa. And then Kepa's injured, and Mendy. And then Reece James is a big loss for him, because when they were playing wing backs, him and Chilwell were creating a lot of attacks. So, even though they were unbeaten under Graham Potter, I think some of their performances kind of papered over the, apparent cracks, like Man United. If you're noticing some games as well, he's making changes before changes because he gets his formations wrong. So, on the one hand, there's a bit of they're suffering for a few injuries, and he still doesn't know his best team. It's like they're playing us, in it. Aubameyang's is going to be motivated. Sterling's going to be motivated, and Chelsea, because we won the last 2 trips to Stamford Bridge, are going to be very, very motivated. And whilst we were brilliant yesterday, there has been a bit of carelessness in our performances, to the extent that Nottingham Forest were a bit of a give me, where after we scored the second and third goal, we were walking through their defence and playing through balls in a way that we found, even though we won games, we haven't been able to do that easily. And I remember Odegaard's been a bit off form until yesterday, where he was always being substituted. So it's one of those things where, you don't know what's going to happen. But if you go from the overall form guide, we should go there with a bit of confidence. But it's Chelsea, isn't it? You don't know what Chelsea's going to turn up. They are like one of the biggest party poopers, as well as being a successful team. Like Champions League final 2 years ago, last year, everyone had City winning that.
Yeah,
it was a case of by how much. Although during that season, Chelsea were beating them in the league and beating them in the semi-final of the FA Cup, but you still had City down, and then Chelsea found a way to win. And that's the thing with Chelsea; they've got an inbuilt mentality that Mourinho's left at that club, where they are capable on their day of winning big games, 50-50 games, and winning trophies and titles. So I'm not going there and thinking we beat Forest 5-0, they lost 4-1 to Brighton. It's an easy win for us, because if anything, it's going to motivate them. It's playing us, and they want to bounce back after that loss to Brighton. But again, if Potter wants to play Cucurella in a back three and play Chilwell and leave us with a midfield of Conor Gallagher, Loftus-Cheek and Mason Mount Feel free, mate. We'll clean up. But he won't do that.
Yeah.
He won't do that.
Yeah, 100% agree with you, man. We've got Chelsea family. He says, I'm not gonna lie, if you don't win this game, I want to see 0 on the board except for for any goal scorers, because half of our first 11 is out with injury, including 3 out of their 5 defenders. Yeah, mate, they're suffering with injuries, like as we mentioned, and 0s on the board for player ratings. Big up Arsenal, Alex, my man. He says, evening, Kenny. Big up, Alex. Thanks for joining, my man. Hope you're doing well. Partey is our best and most important player. Definitely our most important player, yeah, because we're Partey in the midfield, yeah, 100% agree. Partey over Rodri, says RD12. Graham Potter loves our assault against Arteta. That's why that's true as well. Like when we played Brighton last season, we lost 2-1. When we played them a few seasons back again, I mean, we don't really do well against Brighton, I know. But yeah, as you said, Graham Potter does love getting results against Arteta. Big up GT TV for you, says hello all. Sterling at left wing back, says RD12. Seb, what is your thoughts? How confident you are going into this game at Stamford Bridge?
Yeah, 50-50 really, because obviously we're on a good run of form and we've definitely been better than Chelsea this season, but it is Stamford Bridge. It's still a very hard place to go, and despite that Chelsea have been up and down this season, they still haven't lost at home. So it's also something that we need to take into account of. And also, like RT12 said, it's Graham Potter, and he loves playing against Arsenal in general, to be honest, because even at Otterson's, he beat us at the Emirates. And he beat us when we had Limburg in charge, and he's beaten Arteta a couple of times. So he does love playing. He does know how to play against Arsenal. But also there is a fact that Arteta hasn't lost at Stamford Bridge, because we won the last 2, and his other one we drew 2-2 with 10 men. So there is also that. So he's not lost at the Bridge.
That's when Martinelli made that run, didn't he?
Yeah, it was that game. So yeah, it's actually not a bad record if you think about it, going to Stamford Bridge, because we've also lost 1 out of the last 5 since in the last few years. We've lost 1 out of the last 5. So that is actually not a bad record, but Chelsea will definitely be wanting this. They'll want to bounce back after that loss at Brighton, and of course it's Chelsea, Arsenal. They always want to beat us, and Aubameyang, we don't know what form he's going to go in, but he'll want a point to prove, and yeah, they'll be desperate to play us, to motivate us. To motivate them. So we've got to be on our A game. But I honestly think if we bring our A game and every player performs, we do beat them, because I do actually think, and this is the first time I've said this for a while, on paper, their team against our team beats them, but it doesn't always work like that in football. We've got to go out there and put in the performance. And hopefully Saka's injury isn't too bad, because that will be a miss if he's out. But we'll still have Jesus, we'll still have Saliba, as they didn't get booked at the weekend, so we'll still have them, and everyone else should hopefully be up and ready for this. And that's the main game this week, and this will also be one of the other tests, because when we played another Big Six team away from home, Man United, we lost because we played this high line, and even in that loss, we were the better team and probably should have won. But this time we've got to go out there and make sure that we don't make that same mistake again, and we go out there and actually do the job, because if we beat them, then wow, what a great position that will be. But we've got to go out there and do the job and prepare properly.
Yeah, Ardis was talked about Aubameyang. Of course, Aubameyang's coming up against his former club Arsenal. Is he a snake in your eyes, guys? Because he went to Barcelona and then to Chelsea.
No way is he a snake. I think what's happening is that, let's not forget, he left because of a poor relationship between himself and Mikel Arteta. Simple as. The same reason why a lot of players have left. Ozil clearly left because Mikel Arteta banished him from the first team.
Yeah. Something
clearly went on during lockdown that we'll never find out about. A lot of our Ozil fans think it's because of his support for the Uyghur Muslims in China. That couldn't be any more than the truth. You know, the fact is that Mesut Ozil was an enigma at the football club, and he wasn't valued for money for the last few years of his time at the club. Guendouzi again was left. You know, we now know that Leno had a bad relationship with Arteta as well. So Arteta's got.
Did he really?
It was a relationship towards the end of the deselection because Arteta promised Leno first team football and Tony was the number one, and then when he had a few difficulties, you know, Brentford, Chelsea, and Man City, he put Ramsdale in, and according to Leno, he wasn't given a reason for his demotion. And that's something he confirmed with. With Lehman as well. So yeah, there was a relationship breakdown there. So, you know, as far as Aubameyang is concerned, you know, if your manager publicly illustrates why you're left out of a North London derby, something that normally is kept in house, but to say, oh yeah, I left him out because he was late, that relationship don't recover. Don't care how good a player people think Aubameyang is, or how good a manager you think Arteta is. The fact is there's a lot of Aubameyang fans who call him an elite striker. A lot of people who are backing the manager. So he's going to want to prove that he owes us nothing because we're the ones who told him to get lost, not the other way around.
Yeah, facts. Thing is, this is a completely different game than it has been the last few times because Arsenal were the underdogs. This time it's the way around. Yeah, that's true because that 4-2 game, right? We came off the back of losing 3 games in a row. We lost Palace 3-0, Brighton 2-1, Southampton 1-0. Nobody thought we'd go to Stamford Bridge and get a result, but we did. So yeah, that's a decent point. And I don't think Saka's injury is that bad. He hasn't been spotted on crutches and in a protected boot, but that's what I have been hearing. Nelson also has more goals than Aubameyang in the Premier so far. About Reece Nelson, right? Does he deserve a chance for this game against Chelsea after scoring 2 goals against Nottingham Forest?
Honestly, if Saka doesn't is still injured, then yeah, why not? Because obviously he'll be going to that game with confidence after what he did against Forest. So yeah, another chance for him to prove himself and show what he can do. Like you can kind of say Nketiah did that when he started instead of Lacazette last season. So he'll want a point to prove. So if Saka's not fit or not fully fit, then yeah, why not?
Sorry to add a point on that. He's the man. He is very much a man. Let's not forget that Reece Nelson hasn't produced the goods at Arsenal, mainly through injuries, mainly because of that alone. And you know, he's in a situation where you know he might get a starting berth, but he's not playing against Forest. He had a great game. I think Saka would be a massive, massive miss. And knowing how Arteta feels about Saka, he'll probably want to give him a cornerstone injection, bandage him, and tell him before the game, no pain, no gain, no pain, no gain, and make him, you know, watch motivational tapes of no pain, no gain. Because according to Mikel Arteta, the way he plays Saka is like he feels he's our best player, and to a lot of fans, he isn't. People agree with that. He will be a massive loss in if you know against Chelsea, because despite the fact we think Chelsea is not a settled side and because they got popped by Brighton, if there's one player who can unlock the door in terms of like his speed and you know he's going past players at pace, it's Bukayo Saka. So it'd be a good opportunity for Reece James. Will he be able to do it? We just don't know because, you know, when he got his chance against Glint in Norway, it was played it too safe and it didn't work, did it? And when he came on against Eindhoven, it didn't work. So, you know, Forrest is a good confidence booster, but who would you rather have? You know, you would rather have a half fit Saka than Reece James. Not disrespect to Reece James, but how many chances are we going to give Reece James to
Reece Nelson?
Sorry, I keep calling Reece James. How many times are we going to get? I get Alicia as well. Sorry about it, ladies and gentlemen. How many times are we going to wait for Reece Nelson to come good? How many times we've been waiting for the last 4 years? You know, he scored a goal in against. Sometimes you've got to cut the cord and say, you know what, he's not an Arsenal player. He's never going to make it the club, and we've got to cut the cord. But whilst he's here, wish him all the best. But I think for me, it's going to be a big sort of like drop in quality in that position. If
Yeah, 100%, man.
I agree. Can I also add something to that?
Yeah, go on.
Kenny's absolutely right there. He will be a big miss if he plays. And going back to the point, he's also right about Arteta playing Saka, even if he's half fit, and also the fact that he will just keep him on and he won't take him off. Like I remember last season when we beat Newcastle at the Emirates. After he scored his first goal, he asked to come off because he was struggling. He was struggling with a little injury, and then that same week we were playing Man United that Thursday, and then guess what Arteta said in that conference the day before? Saka needs to be comfortable playing with a little injury, and then he actually played in that Man United game. So that also just shows you how much Arteta thinks and rates Saka, and if he's good enough to walk, he'll probably still play. But we've got to be really careful with this guy because even though he's never had a big injury in his life, the way he gets kicked and just muscled by everyone, then we will end up ruining him that day. But I think this just again shows that our depth in that area is not strong enough, and that is an area we have to address in January if we're going to stay up there towards the business end of the season. And the fact that we're relying on Saka, who's a great player, but he's still in his early 20s, so it shouldn't actually be that way. But it is what it is.
Yeah, like we got rid of Pepe. He sent out on loan to Nice, and then we didn't replace him, did he, as a backup? We said this in our previous podcast. Yeah, is Saka getting overplayed too much?
Yes, definitely, absolutely. But to be fair, I don't think Arteta's really got much of a choice because, like we said, we got rid of Pepe, didn't replace him, which I think was a mistake. And instead, we got Nelson and Marquinhos and Vieira, who can probably also play there. What Saka brings is completely different.
He scares the living daylights out defensive. Yeah. I know this season he hasn't been playing his best football, and there's been questions about how is he overrated or not because of the form of Martinelli. But if you think about it and you go through the last couple of seasons, and even some parts of this season, something in the back of you feels that you don't like the fact that he's been overplayed because you know how this ends. Look what happened with Jack and all these other players who are overplayed. They just burn out. And you want him to have a long career, preferably at our football club. But the manager just generally believes, I don't know if he sees him as his pet project, but he generally can't see himself winning a football match without Saka in the team because, if you talk about Saka's qualities, he's actually adding goal to his games as well, which is something a player of that in playing that position, you've always wanted him to have an end product. And the thing is that, his crossing ability could be better, but when you've got that amount of pace and the fact that you scared the living daylights out of defenders, you can make defenders, you're either going to draw a foul or you're going to have a shot on goal and score. And he can actually play down the left as well, and he did start off as a left back. You've got potentially a player you can coach into different positions if you need be. So I can understand what he's doing, but for the Saka and main. He's going to say, right, if you read that Evening Standard magazine about 3 weeks ago, where he was saying, "Oh, I'm fit, I'll play every game," he's going to say that, isn't he?
Yeah, of course.
Of course, he'll say that. Yeah,
yeah.
But I've been on podcasts, me, Lee, and a few others. I've complained about the fact that he's been overplayed, and that I wanted him to be not selected at all during the European games, not even to come on for a minute. But again, it's the manager values this lad so highly that he can't do without him.
Yeah.
and that's probably why he's overplaying him.
Yeah, 100%. Apart from Xhaka and Partey, our players that are going to World Cup might not even be playing, so the World Cup break could do us good. GZ TV for you says, good show, Josh. Wish I could have been here. I'm more celebrating this Halloween. Yeah, happy Halloween to you, my man. Yeah, big up yourself. Thanks for tuning in. I think Saka was actually benched against United because we went Martinelli on the right, Smith on the left. Did we?
Was he? I have to
I
double.
don't know. So Saka started the game.
Yeah, he started.
I think he did start. No, yeah. I think
No,
he
he
did.
100% started. He 100% started. Trust me.
So Smith Rowe, I don't think he's played a game this season, has he?
Well, he got injured and warmed down, didn't he? Smith Rowe.
Yeah. Well, now that's mad.
Yeah, Saka Oh, you're talking about the game early this season, or we talked about last?
We're talking about the 3-1 defeat, Man United.
He definitely started that game because Smith Rowe came off the bench. He definitely started that game.
Oh, Saka definitely started the game.
Yes, he 100% did. In fact, he scored in that game. He scored our goal.
Oh yeah, of course he did. Yeah, that's right.
No, does he mean? Wait, actually, I've just googled it. Does he mean Does he mean the Man United game last year? Because Saka did actually start for the bench. I've just googled that. The 3-2 loss to last year, because also I was referring back to last year when he got injured against Newcastle and then we played Man United.
Yeah,
right. He's right about that bit. The earlier season he started Saka.
The issue with Reece that I've had is that he's never is selfish enough. Identical to Odegaard, but plays on the right. Well, that's true because Odegaard. Well, I know he scored, but barely ever shoots, does he? Like, he always seems to lay it off when he gets in a good position.
Yeah.
Oh, the one this season. I thought you went about the game last. Yeah, he means that one.
Yeah,
the one.
yeah.
That was just correct. Yeah, that's what. Yeah.
But no,
Josh, you know what it is with Reece Nelson and players like that. When you play for us, and that's one of the reasons I think we had a problem with Iwobi, is that we never had really much problem with the fact that he desired to play for the club. But when you play for a big club like Arsenal and the big six clubs, you're selected because we want you to take a risk. We want you to affect the game. You can't affect football matches if you don't take a risk. You know, try and play that through pass. Nothing wrong with that. Try and take that player on. Try and, attack in a positive way. And so, the guy is right. The guy just made a lot of comments. Is right. That is what holds players like Reece Nelson back, is because, and I think that's what held up Iwobi back, is they never expressed themselves. One of the things that Roy Keane used to say when players used to cut to Man United, if they passed the ball side, he used to go mad. At Man United, you take a risk and do a forward pass. And it's the same with all these young players who come to the side. Don't play it safe. Express yourself. You're selected because we want you to take the player on. We want you to, do that through pass, because Arsenal have to win matches, especially when you play in that position Reece Nelson plays. You've got to be taking grains to the strike for the neck, like Saka tries to do, like Martinelli tries to do it every minute in every game. You can't do that. Then you're not an Arsenal player. Go and play for another club. And that's not criticising him. It's just what's required. Jack did it. As soon as he came to the club, he just thought it wasn't heavy for Jack. It wasn't heavy for, Fabregas and all these players that come through. It's not heavy for Smith Rowe. So players like that, if you're going to come in our team, express yourself and attack. Play. That's what you're at Arsenal for. We're not a small club. We're a big club.
Exactly. Joe Willock was the complete opposite to Nelson. Joe Willock was pretty decent for us, but then of course we saw him to Newcastle. And I think he's been pretty good for them.
He was okay, nothing special.
I know we've been waiting for Nelson to come good, but do you not think he's showing a maturity since his recent loan? What's your thoughts on that, Seb? Like, this one, is he showing maturity since his recent loan? Because we loaned him to, is that Dutch team, wasn't it? Final, yeah.
Sort of. If you're going based on that, the game yesterday, then obviously yes. But if you're going about it when he's come on as cameos in those Europa League games, then you have to say not 100%. But I guess someone has to starts somewhere, and maybe hopefully that's the game for him. But the thing with Reece is that he knows this is his last chance because his contract expires at the end of the season, so he knows he has to take this chance when he's given to him. So maybe will that motivate him? If not, then he knows he'll be out of the door. But yeah,
isn't Saka's contract right now?
2 years. 2 years.
Oh.
We still haven't got that sorted yet, and same with Martinelli and
Martinelli as well. Yeah,
and Saliba as well. We've got to get that done.
How long has he got left?
2 years.
2 years as well.
We have to get that done because all the big clubs will be hovering around and monitoring the situation until he signs it. So that is something we've got to sort out.
Will you do a preview? Yeah, man, definitely. I'm doing that. I'll need to get a few Chelsea fans on for that as well. But yeah, we're going to move on to the January window now. Of course, big window this January for Arsenal. And yeah, let's go back to last season, right? Signed absolutely nobody in January when we clearly needed to sign people. And we bottled top four because of that, pretty much. And yeah, and it's been like that for many years at Arsenal, isn't it? Like, you know, last season it was all Vlahovic, but never happened. I remember like we was linked for Benzema like all the time. Again, never happened, did it? So yeah, sign off for you, Kenny. Right, this January, I've got two questions for you. Right, the first question is, do you actually think Arsenal will sign anyone? And if we do, who would you like to see Arsenal bring in?
Well, if Arsenal's serious about playing for the going for the title, because you know I think if they're still in the title. By the end of January, if they're still top of the table by the end of January, then they are in effect in the title race. So one of the things that I think I've discussed on loads of podcasts and I've discussed with fans and even journalists, and you guys have alluded to that regarding Saka's injury, the squad's too thin. That squad, I can tell you now, with the amount of numbers, if it gets injuries and gets any sort of like burnout from the World Cup, it's not going to be strong enough in terms of numbers to win the league. It's not going to happen. You think of the games we're going to have, you know, Tottenham away, we never win there. We haven't beaten Spurs at their ground. We only went once in 12 years. They're going to be well up for it. Man City away, another game. They, you know, it's going to decide a title. Maybe even Liverpool away. You know, you're going to have you're going to have West Ham going to try. They're going to try against us at their ground, and then obviously you've got you know, the reverse game with Chelsea, you've got reverse game with Man United. So you're going to want. You can't rely on the same player. Well, yeah, Newcastle away. See, you can't. That squad. The problem we got at Arsenal is that, as you've alluded to, in terms of like the difference between Saka and Nelson, you basically described a dearth in quality, where the quality gap between the understudies shouldn't be that big, but it's massive. The quality gap between Jesus and Eddie is massive.
Yeah. And
that's the problem. The quality gap between Albert and Partey is massive. So these players who are meant to be understudies haven't done enough to bridge the quality gap, plus the squad's too thin. You know, Arsenal, if they're playing this well and getting these numbers early in the season, they have to have something to show for it. They've got to win a trophy, preferably Europa League, because we're in it, even though it's a diver competition in the group stage. And, you know, if we're still still challenging the title, we've got to sustain that to the end of May. We do need to get some quality players in. And, you know, in terms of what I'll get another midfielder who can play alongside Thomas, or if Thomas is not fit enough, play instead of Thomas, and there's not a gap in quality. I'll definitely get I'm still not convinced about the right back position, but that's probably something we might be able to address in June. And then, but long term, be challenging for the title, you need orthodox right backs. I'll get another forward in, because the depth and quality, you know, it just is too big. Like Eddie, you don't sign up 100k per week contract to just sit on the bench and come on and perform like that. You surely, if you're gonna get a new contract, you should be pushing Jesus for that number 9 shirt. You should, you know, and then, you know, actually challenge it and try to take it off him. Eddie ain't doing that. So let's get another striker in who's a bit different to what we got in terms of like diddy men, hard workers. Maybe get a target man. Might even get you Vlahovic, Josh, or Everyone,
What about
everyone.
Ivan Toney?
I was waiting for that. I was waiting for that, Josh, because I was about to say because everyone is thinking out loud about this lad. Everyone I speak to, Ivan Toney. What about him? You know, he was at Newcastle. Didn't get them. It didn't work out as such. But since he's been at Brentford, everyone's been admiring him from afar. And yeah, that would be a good acquisition. You could even argue that you could even play him alongside Jesus in certain games, because you know that is a quality player who's proved that he can score goals at this level, albeit for unfashionable West London club Brentford, who are punching above their weight. But yeah, 100%. And one thing about Brentford over the years, they've produced strikers who've gone up to better things. Although Ivan Toney coming from Brentford Arsenal is going to be massive, but you think about it, they had Mopé gone on to put the Premiership, Watkins gone on, Benrahma gone on. And
they recruit very well. They recruit well.
So what's happening is that that Brentford remind me a bit like Atletico Madrid. You remember Atletico Madrid where they used to produce these players who went on to better things, like Griezmann, Fernando Torres, Diego Costa. You know what I mean? Who else is there? Aguero. There's a conveyor belt of players that who just replace a decent striker, and they produce big goods and get big moves. I think Brentford quietly, obviously they're not Atletico Madrid in terms of status, but in terms of the players they produce to go on to better things, they recruit really well. And I think, as Josh says, Ivan Toney has to be part of the conversation because everyone seems to have that name on their lips. Any podcast you go on, it's there.
I've heard that we are signing this Orlando City midfielder. You guys heard anything?
Not true. Apparently it's denied.
Orlando City midfielder. I mean, I don't watch the MLS at all. So
no, we don't want to be going for that.
When are we playing City at home? When are we playing City at home? Do you guys know yet?
April. Because
April.
I'll tell you. I think what's happening is that it's highlighted. It's going to be late in the season because, in terms of the 3 week, the 3 midweek games, 3 midweeks, because of the World Cup, because of the European competitions, because of some of the midweek games already decided, an international break. There's only 3 midweeks free this season. So there's 2. I think there's about 1 in April and 2 in May. So you remember when we played Tottenham last year, the game was in January. We ended up playing that game in May. The Premier League, again, probably had all that because of European games, international breaks and everything. That's the only 3 midweek games, dates they have left is 1 in April after the semi-final of the FA Cup, and then you've got the other 2 in May. Remember, we still got to play Everton as well.
Yeah,
that's off. And then City, and then there's other clubs as well. Probably got 3 games to play as well so that's the thing. The World Cup, the international breaks, the qualifiers to European Championships, and that's really made the season really, very, really, really congested.
I feel like it depends on what the fan base wants. A lot of fans, from what I've seen, think top 4 is good from this point on of the season. So looking at it this way, the club will probably not sign players. That's a good point. Yeah. But I'm going to go on to about Arsenal challenging this season in a minute. If top 4 is all they want, I think we need to sign 2 midfielders and a winner, someone to back up Partey if he's knackered within 70 minutes. Tammy Abraham, is he a shout for you guys? Says RD12.
He's a good player, and he has actually done really well since leaving Chelsea, and he's also a little bit of a clumsy player, but he's better than Eddie. So
he's better than Eddie. Yeah.
I take that. Anyone's better than any.
He's done well with Roma, really.
Yeah, he's done very well. He has.
Is he getting games though? Because they signed Dybala, innit? Dybala from.
Dybala's injured.
He's injured. I was injured.
Yeah.
Oh, so Tammy might get a few games. The thing with Tammy, right, is that remember last season when we lost the pre-season games, to Chelsea and Tottenham, where we thought Tammy. Remember, we thought Tammy was coming to Arsenal, that he went up to Roma. I think, had it not been for the admiration and form of and the confidence displayed by Ivan Toney, we probably would be talking about Tammy to a certain extent, because Tammy is another player that will give us something different in terms of he will be able to hold the ball up, be good in the air. He's good runner, good running. He's quick. He's not pacey. He's not pacey like Jesus, but he's quick anyway, quick enough, and that's another bit of a variety we'll need. And he's an England national, so you can't rule that one out. But as I said, Vlahovic, apparently we weren't, either something happened where we might have been a bit at fault, or Juventus were at fault. Fiorentina were at fault for him going to Juventus.
Respond to what Kenny said. What would happen if teams make the FA Cup final, like my team does every year, but loses, but the Cup quarterfinals would then have to get postponed?
No, the FA Cup takes priority because it's a competition that has it's actually got set dates that have been agreed by agreed. So again, a Premiership game would never take precedent over them.
So they'll always play the games.
So they're always going to play it because they're actually penciled in dates. It's like, for instance, the quarterfinals, obviously they're in the midweek. I think that's what my friend was just alluding to now. Those are set dates. The other dates that we got, the league games. So, what I'm trying to say, well, if Chelsea are in the quarterfinal of the FA Cup and they meant to have a league game, that FA Cup takes precedence. Always takes precedence.
Yeah, it does.
Because it's penciled in the calendar, and that's an agreement between the Premiership and the FA. Like, for instance,
like the semi-finals all the time, they'll always take precedence.
Definitely, So as the quarterfinals, does that go penalties now? There's no replays, is there, in the quarterfinal?
From round 5 onwards, I think it's from round 5 onwards.
Change that.
Yeah.
Seb, what's your thoughts on the January window this upcoming, mate?
Oh, this is very, very, very important. We really have to strengthen, and we need at least 2 or 3 players if we are going to stay up there to come the business end of the season. Like, especially in midfield, especially on the wing. Those are 2 very important areas because, like Henny said, the squad's too thin and it won't last for the whole season. And like we've seen them, we've got to learn from these mistakes in previous seasons. Last year we did it with not signing a striker and not signing another midfielder. We saw the consequences. We didn't get top 4. A couple of times when we've challenged for titles, like in 2014, we bought Kim Coucher and broken back. And then that cost us the title because we didn't buy a striker. And then the season where Leicester won the league.
Yeah, we had Giroud up front, didn't we?
Yeah, sorry?
We had Olivier Giroud up front that season.
Yeah, but we needed another striker. We didn't buy any outfield player that summer. And
didn't we buy Petr Cech? That's only
when that was it, when that cost us. So we've made these mistakes in previous seasons. We cannot afford to make this mistake again because this could be our best opportunity we have of winning the league. Because all these other teams like Chelsea, Liverpool, even Newcastle now, they're likely to come back next season. So we have to take advantage of this. And when you're in a good position, like we are now, you should be doing everything you can to make sure you get that and you're challenging there and you're stood up there. You have to do that. Something that we didn't do last year. We should have done everything we could to make sure we got that top 4 because came January, we were actually in the top 4. All we needed to do was to add a couple players would have done it. But of course we've neglected the squad and we got punished, and we have to learn these lessons because they've happened in previous years, and this is an even bigger January that we need to do what is required, because also if we're not careful, if we don't add, and don't forget the Europa League is going to come into the latter stages, and some of these big teams that have dropped out from the Champions League, like Barcelona, like Juventus, like Atletico Madrid. They're all going to be in the Europa League, so we're going to have to start playing our strongest team in that as well. Thursday, Sunday. This time we really will have to play 2 teams, and I'm still not quite sure whether this squad is quite strong enough to do both. Like, if we didn't have any Europe, then we would obviously still have a great chance. I still do think we do have a chance of winning this league, but only if we strengthen in January midfield and on the wing. And I agree, a striker, they're a must. At least 2 of those positions is a must. Otherwise we'll be coming to regrets again, and we'll be saying the same thing like we did last year and the season before. Oh, you should have gone out and done that. You should have gone if only, what if. I don't want to start becoming this a what if team, because that's all we have done in these last 20 years, become what if. We don't want that. We need to now make sure we do what's required, and we do get that.
100%. Trossard, Cody Gakpo, Milinkovic-Savic, players that we need. Yeah, Trossard's been superb. I do rate Milinkovic-Savic as well. Gakpo, I don't know about Gakpo.
Well, to be fair to him, I know he didn't deliver when we played them at the Emirates, but he did when we played them at their place. So again, I wouldn't be against it. He's tall and he's quick, and he gets you. So why not? If why not? If he's available, why not? He'll cost quite a bit of money, but but you have to spend. And Arteta needs to be backed. That's the main thing.
I know that, but then what would those league games be played if there's only 3 open midweek games?
It'll have to be playing those games because simple reasons that, I'm assuming like at the turn of the year we're going to have a midweek league program, because we seem to have one around the January times as well. Because remember we've got after we come back from the World Cup, remember we got the Boxing Day calendar, and then we got the sort of New Year's Eve calendar, and then 2 days later we got league games. So league games, and then you got the FA Cup. And then I don't know if there's another league game, but we get into the situation where those dates all remember the FA Cup as well, because let's not get from the third round and fourth round, you guys are saying there's going to be FA Cup replays, and those dates are set in stone. So there's going to be a situation that when you come to the 5th round now, the FA Cup, that's when the European competitions start, especially you remember there's going to be games in the Europa League where there's going to be a kind of like a playoff game to get into the last 16 for both the conference and the Europa League, because teams that drop out of the Champions League and will be playing teams that finish second in Europa League groups. So those dates are penciled in. Then you've got the last 16 of both the competitions. So there's, mate, there's no dates. There's no real free dates that I can think of. That they're all being hogged by or penciled in by the FA and UEFA. And then let's not forget, end of March, coming towards the end of March, early April, it's the European Championship qualifiers. So international week's going to come in as well. Then you've got. So the only dates you've got left is probably after the FA Cup semi-final, that weekend games. And remember, if some of those games, some teams probably going to have 3 games to pencil in. So, yeah. And you know what will happen? Those dates in April, let's not forget, if certain teams like Chelsea, your team Chelsea, gets into the FA Cup quarterfinals and semi-finals and can't play league games, you know what I mean? They've got that April game, and then those. So it's and remember the league has to finish on the 28th of May because the FA Cup final is the 3rd of June.
Yeah.
You
know what I mean?
Yeah, the fixture congestion will only get worse after the World Cup. If you think it's bad now, it's going to be even worse after the World Cup. And Mikel Arteta knows that, so he has to be putting pressure on that board.
Every team that wants to win a trophy or get a top 4 winner will have to, Chelsea, even Chelsea with their money bags are going to buy, and Newcastle, and that's the thing about Arsenal is that let's not forget that Newcastle are now a rival because they got a blank check, and they're not they're probably not subject to FFP. So, if we going for a player, Newcastle going for a player, if a player's motivated by money, they'll go Newcastle, innit?
Yeah, so the final thing we're going to move on now is the big question: can Arsenal challenge for this league title? Now, guys, I'm 15 years old, right? I've won in 2007. I've never seen Arsenal win the Premier League. I've never seen Arsenal get it. I've missed the Champions League final. And I've only ever seen Arsenal win the FA Cup. So, I'm desperate for Arsenal to at least challenge for the league title now because it's been 19 years, innit, since we last won. And that's the question. This season, right? Do you think we can actually compete with Manchester City, Kenny?
You know what? We're winning games. We're getting bodies forward. The first thing we need to do is that if we're going to win the title, we've got to score at least between 90 and 100 goals. I actually, my feelings. I don't agree with Arteta on a lot of things, but I agree with him on that. And we've got to get the points as well. So we've got to keep on beating teams that we should be beating, but we've got to take risks. We've got to improve our record at these grounds like, Etihad, White Hart Lane, because as much as we laugh at Spurs, and we could do that and say they haven't won a trophy, come on. Let's not be too deluded. They finished above us the last 6 seasons, and they've been closer to winning the league than us. Let's face it. Since let's be honest with ourselves. And so, and our record against them at their ground is horrendous. It's embarrassing.
It's awful, yeah.
It's embarrassing. You know what I mean? So we've got to up that record. But as Seb and all of us says, you can't win the league unless you're a big enough squad, because there is going to be you're going to have players who are going to lose form, and you are going to have players who are going to lose injuries and are going to get suspended. And you want quality players to come in their place, because we're going to break down. We're going to break down, and it's not going to be like the steady Eddie's going to break down. It's going to be key players who can win you, who your match winners are going to break down. So if we can sustain a squad and improve our record, especially away from home, certainly we've got a chance. Because let's not forget, as much as a lot of people don't rate Everton, our record at Goodison Park of late is terrible as well.
Yeah.
So that's a place where we need to get the points as well. So we can't just talk about Anfield, the Etihad and
Brighton as well.
Brighton as well. So those are key games, and it's second half of the season where they're going to try to stop Arsenal from doing something. That's another games. You know what I mean? I remember we got a strange record at home to Crystal Palace.
Yeah.
Believe it. So after the new year, we're going to have some really difficult games where there's going to be no let up, and teams will run a bit harder against us because they've had a good luck at us. We've turned them over for the first round of the games. They're going to think, right, doesn't matter whether it's at the Emirates or it's at their grounds. Teams are going to be at it and try and stop us from playing. So again, that's going to be the biggest challenge before. Remember, Josh, and Seb, we've been here before. Remember, 2008. That's second half of the season when teams, worked us out a bit and stopped us from playing. We couldn't cope with that. In 2013, 2014, got smashed by Liverpool, 5-1, and then a few weeks after that, got smashed by Chelsea, 6-0. So we've been here before. Common denominator is, get some new faces in January.
Yeah, Seb, mate, your thoughts on if Arsenal can challenge for this league?
I agree with Kenny. I absolutely agree with him. We have to add in January, and we have to have like a good second half of the season. Of course, our first half's been good, but we have to have a good second half of the season as well. Like, keep winning the games that we need to be winning, and doing better at those grounds that we don't notoriously do well at. And also, I know we've had it early this season against Leeds and Fulham, but we need to be winning a few more games. When we don't play well, we need to grind it out and we got to just keep doing that and just keep getting the results. And I have actually said since we beat Tottenham and Liverpool, then I've actually backed us as saying, yes, there's no reason why we cannot challenge and we cannot win this league. And I also think people need to raise their standards a little bit. I know you have to take steps at a time, and we've been out of the Champions League the last 6 years, and we need to actually get back in there first. But if you're in a good position and you're winning games like this, then there's no reason why you can't push on and demand further. Just like we said, things change through the season. So also, let's also demand better. But January is very key because like we said, the second half of the season, the fixtures are going to be more chaos. We've got some more harder tests to come. Like Kenny said, Man City away, Liverpool away, Spurs away, Man City at home as well.
Newcastle as well.
Yeah, even grounds like Newcastle, West Ham. We've got all that. We've got all that to come. So,
Even a team like Wolves as well. Like previous times, we've struggled against them.
We've got Wolves away just before the that's the last game before the World Cup.
Yeah,
so got them in a couple of weeks. But yeah, if we go into the World Cup top of the league or even second, but just a point behind, then there's no reason when we have every chance to really kick on. But we've just got to do what required, take it game by game. And yeah, add in January, then if we take it from there. But can we do it? Yes. Will we? Remains to be seen.
Yeah, I think Arsenal might change, but you need the signs to back it up. Yeah, 100%. I was 2 months old when Vieira lifted that trophy all those years ago. Yeah, well, both you guys have seen us. You saw it, didn't you? Both of you lot. So yeah. The first team is definitely not. The first team is definitely good enough, but still we haven't mechanically sorted out these away records like Southampton, who we failed to defeat.
No, I actually disagree with that. To be fair, listen. With the form we're on, we're not going to win every single game, and there are going to be the odd bumps like that. And every team has it. Man City had it with Villa early in the season. So I don't think it's fair to just say, just because we didn't beat Southampton doesn't mean we haven't mathematically sorted it out. I think it is only. I don't think it's going to be those games that's going to cost us. If we do not add in January, that's what's going to cost us. But I know that's a game we should have won, and it did feel like a defeat. But no, I wouldn't quite go that far. As long as we don't.
You think about it, Steve. I hear what you're saying because the chances we have.
Too many of them. But if we just get the odd one or two, then every team's going
to. You know the first half. Sorry, Steve. But you know the first setting off. It's easy to say that, but we can't take anything away from Southampton and the fact that we did tail off. They were getting amongst, and they were getting behind us, and they scored a goal straight from their goal kick. And had they had the quality, they could have turned us over, but they didn't have the quality. And I think Rosenthal made the wrong substitutions. But that was the middle of the form. And yeah, you are right. There is going to be form dips as well. But the situation is that when it comes to the business end of the season, it becomes really hard to recover from those defeats. Hence the fact that at the moment we've got margin for error, but it's going to get to the last 10 games where we weren't going to have margin for error. We can't afford to get in a rut, and we're going to get in a rut if we don't have the right personnel, as you said, in terms of numbers.
Definitely. But our problem last year was when we lost one, we went on to lose 2 or 3. But this year we've not had that, so that is something that we have worked on. But if you look at our April schedule, it's difficult. We've got Liverpool away. We've also got Man City away in there. We've got Chelsea at home in there. So
yeah,
we can't afford that. And our January is tough as well because we've got Newcastle at home, the FA Cup, Tottenham away, Man United at home. So you look at that, and if we go further in the League Cup, they'll squeeze it in around there as well. So we can't afford that.
To be honest, right, as Arsenal fans, we want that fixture congestion. We want us involved every tournament because we haven't won a trophy for 3 years, and this team has to win something because you can't play that well, and it'd be an absolute shame if we play well like that and not have anything to show by it. So
Absolutely.
big
Then it'll
clubs.
be a failure. Then it'll be a failure for season. If
Yeah,
we
it will be.
Yeah.
Will be, because and I suppose the thinking behind having Saka, you want players, top players play 60, don't play the 38 games a season. They'll play between 60 games and more a season because they're involved in competitions to win trophies. And I suppose collectively between all three of us, the dream is for Arsenal to have that kind of schedule every season.
I think this thought about you need to take it step by step is absolute bullshit. Leicester won the league and qualified for the first time to the Champions League in their history.
Fair point there.
Yeah, exactly. I think if you spend 200 mil, the most money last summer, I was expecting any other manager to be involved in the title. Yeah, listen, I don't rate Arteta either, right? But he spent more than 200 since he's been at the club, ain't he?
Yeah, he has. In the last two seasons.
We've been massive spenders, even for years, and he's had a lot of money to spend. And it's not a process no more. And my guy, the Chelsea fans, I'm right. It's not a process. From the minute Edu opened his mouth and said that we now need to send a return, and he said this in June, this trust the process and youth project's over. It's deliverance now this season. Has to deliver.
100%. He's been given more than enough time. This is his first full season.
I mean, what if he fails to get top four? Like, surely these fans who back him so much have got to say
no,
something.
Then that's completely unacceptable if he doesn't get them. Especially for a start like this. No, absolutely not.
But the thing is, top four's got to be a minimum now. With the way we're playing and with the objectives that have been set by Edu, which a lot of fans. Because one of the reasons why people like me and Lee are not utterly detested by a lot of people in the fan base is because we won't budge from our standing point that Arsenal have to win the league and have to challenge for the league every season because of the size of the club and the history of it. And that processes shouldn't be acceptable because my guy just there, what's his name? Sian how? He's a Chelsea fan.
Chelsea, yeah.
You think he's going to be like giving Potter inviting Potter around for biscuits and tea if they get fifth and they don't win nothing, he'll want him out because that's a standard.
That's what they do. They sack their managers if it's not going right for them. They don't do processes. And look, they've been the most successful club in England the past 15 years, right? That's and they sack their managers if it's not going right. He's out the door. We should have sacked Arteta, mate, years ago. Like for me, it's when we went on that horrendous one when we lost to Burnley and all that, right? That's when he should have gone. But yeah, but obviously I'm still my mind ain't changed about Arteta. Listen, he's doing really well at the moment, and we're doing really well. But for my mind to change, right? He needs to get us challenging for a league title. Simple as that. Not top four. With
the money we spent and the success we've had, it has to be nothing else other than title thing. Yeah, you're right. LD. That's how it's looking because I was watching something on Sky about a few weeks ago, and they went through all the processes, and there's not enough time in the calendar, especially when we still got to play Everton at home, and the Man City game's got to be played. We're going to be playing Man City twice in about maybe a few weeks from April. No getting away from that because of the fact that the FA Cup, Europe and International Week, there's no dates left. So yeah, you're right.
Yes, guys, it's been an absolute pleasure. This has been fantastic. Big up everyone in the chat. Big up everyone who's watched. Thanks so much to Kenny for coming on, man. Taking your time out to come on my channel today.
You know what? Thanks for you and Seb for inviting me because I could have been watching Coronation Street, and that's boring. Coronation Street.
Yeah, and of course, Seb, man, thanks for coming on once again. Always appreciate you as well. But no, guys, it's been very, very good today. Big up everyone, and everyone smash that button. Come on, you Gunners. I'll see you guys with another video very soon.
Come on, you Reds.